The conference room on the 42nd floor of Vero Advisory was covered in glass, with a view of the river and the city below. Lorenzo Marchetti always stood where the sunlight touched him best. He understood the power of appearance. He knew how to control a room with his confidence, his expensive suit, and his perfectly timed smile. For 11 years, I had sat in that same room. I had watched Vero Advisory grow from a small company with a handful of partners into a global consulting firm with offices around the world. The wall in the lobby was covered with the logos of famous companies, and visitors often stopped to admire them. I knew the story behind many of those logos. I knew the midnight phone calls, the emergency meetings, the difficult negotiations, and the years of trust it took to put them there. But Lorenzo saw them as trophies belonging to the firm, Inessa, he said during a partner meeting. His voice loud enough for everyone to hear. Clients stay because of Vero. They don't stay because of one person. Several younger partners looked down into their coffee cups. Some smiled quietly. Nobody defended me. I could have argued. I could have reminded everyone that the clients under my responsibility generated almost $87 million every year. I could have listed every crisis I had solved and every relationship I had built. Instead, I simply closed my laptop. "Thank you for your opinion," I said calmly. Then I walked out. Lorenzo believed he had won that moment. He believed he had put me in my place. What he did not know was that the first crack in his confidence had already appeared, and soon the entire foundation beneath him would break. I joined Vero when it was small and unknown. We had one office floor, limited resources, and a team that worked harder than anyone expected. I was there before the expensive furniture, before the impressive lobby, and before people spoke our name with respect. I became a senior engagement partner because clients trusted me with their biggest problems. I handled matters that were never announced publicly: financial restructurings, regulatory investigations, and business crises that could destroy companies if they were handled incorrectly. Many consultants were intelligent, many were excellent speakers, but trust was something different. Trust was built one conversation at a time, one promise at a time, and one difficult night at a time. That trust was why executives called my personal phone before they contacted anyone else at Vero. Lorenzo never understood that. He arrived 4 years earlier from a larger firm with a reputation as a brilliant strategist. He talked constantly about professionalizing the partnership. He loved numbers, presentations, and organizational charts. But he cared more about the appearance of strength than the people who created it. The first major disagreement between us involved the Noren Group, one of Vero's most important clients. During a weekly review meeting, Lorenzo looked at the account reports and said confidently, "Noren is stable. The renewal should be easy." "It isn't stable," I replied. The room became silent. Their new leadership wants to reduce the number of advisors they use. Competitors are approaching them aggressively. Lorenzo smiled as if I was worrying unnecessarily. "They have worked with you for years. They trust you." "That is exactly the problem," I answered. "The relationship is too dependent on me. We need to add more senior partners and show them the depth of the firm." He rejected the idea immediately. "We are not spending additional money on an account that already belongs to US." Then he moved to the next topic. That was his greatest skill. He did not defeat opposing arguments. He simply acted as though they no longer existed. Months later, my warning became reality. Noren left. The official explanation was that they wanted a larger European advisory team. The exact problem I had warned Lorenzo about, and the exact issue he refused to solve. The following morning, Lorenzo called an emergency meeting. He stood in front of a large screen displaying Noren's logo like a memorial. $12 million in annual fees, he said. Gone. Then he looked directly at me. "Inessa, this was your relationship. Can you explain how we lost it?" The room became quiet. Everyone knew what he was doing. He was making me responsible for his decision. I raised concerns about this account 3 times. I said calmly, I requested additional support. Those requests were rejected. The meeting records prove it. Lorenzo smiled. We cannot run the company based on every partner's fear about their own clients. A few people laughed. Then he delivered the sentence. He wanted everyone to remember, clients stay for the firm, Inessa. If they leave when a relationship is tested. Perhaps that relationship was never as strong as we believed. That sentence told me everything. It did not matter what evidence I presented. The room had already chosen its side. If I argued, I would be called emotional and difficult, but so I did something Lorenzo never expected. You are right, I said quietly. I will prepare a complete report over the weekend. For the first time. He looked surprised. He expected a battle. I gave him surrender. But it was not surrender. It was a decision. Later that day, a junior partner named Haver came to my office. He looked uncomfortable. Lorenzo already has a plan to divide your clients, he told me. He showed me a presentation this morning. My team is receiving the reinsurance account. I understood. Immediately. The meeting had never been about Noren. It had been the beginning of removing me. Lorenzo wanted everyone to remember me as the partner who lost a client, not the partner whose clients were taken away. After Haver left, I opened an email I had ignored for 3 months. It was from Casson Brandt, managing partner of Aldermore Partners, one of our competitors. The subject line said only 2 words, still thinking. That evening, I replied, yes, let's talk. The meeting with Casson happened early Monday morning in a quiet hotel lobby across the river. We are not hiring you to continue doing the same job under a different logo, he told me. We want to build an entire practice around you. Partnership equity from the beginning. Your name on the door within 2 years. I listened carefully. Then I asked the only question that mattered. What does my non-compete agreement allow? Years earlier, when I signed my Vero partnership agreement, I had negotiated a small change. The firm's standard contract prevented former partners from asking clients to follow them, but I had added one important sentence. The restriction did not apply if the client contacted me first. At the time, nobody thought the wording mattered. They were wrong. The client could not be solicited if they made the first call, and I had spent 11 years making sure they would. I resigned 2 days later. Lorenzo accepted my resignation with a satisfied smile. He believed the problem had removed itself. 2 days later, he learned the truth. Noren called Vero and asked a simple question. Where did Inessa go? They were not leaving because they no longer trusted me. They had been waiting to see where I would land. Soon, other calls followed. The fintech company. The reinsurance chairman. The logistics group. Every call came from them. Not from me. Vero's leadership quickly understood what Lorenzo had failed to understand. The contracts belonged to the company, but the loyalty belonged to the person who earned it. They called me back and offered everything they had refused before: more authority, equity, and complete control over my client relationships. I declined. I had already chosen my future. When Lorenzo accused me of stealing the company's clients, I gave him the truth he had avoided for years. The logo did not answer the phone at 2 in the morning. I told him I did. The room became silent for the first time. Lorenzo was the person without an argument. Within weeks, he lost his management position. The man who spent years deciding when meetings ended was quietly removed from the role where he controlled them. I did not celebrate his downfall. That would have made the story too small. I did not destroy Lorenzo. I simply stopped allowing him to take credit for something he had never built. At Aldermore, my new practice grew faster than anyone expected. Within 18 months, nearly $80 million of the original $87 million followed me. Casson placed the number on a small card and left it on my desk. I kept it beside my old partnership agreement, the agreement containing one sentence nobody considered important. Years later, I stood in another glass office overlooking the same river from a different angle. The sunlight filled the room just as it had at Vero. For a moment, I remembered Lorenzo carefully choosing the brightest place too. Then I finally understood. Something the light was never the source of. Power. The power was the work. The late night. Calls. The promises kept. The trust. Earned over years when nobody was watching. That was what had followed me. Not the office. Not the title. Not the logo. Just the part of the company I had truly built. And that was enough.